please do not attempt to force some kind of paint by number process onto your strategic decision making. That is a mouthful. This is Mark Silver with Heart of Business. And what I see happening for people that are, their businesses have started to develop into something that's a little bit more than just startup, and or even much further down the line, and they start wrestling with big questions of like, what do I want from my business, and what's going to be a sustainable and profitable business model? Like, what does my business really need to look like? And wow, I've got some big questions around what direction I want to go in, and where do I go? And a lot of times I see people really wrestling with them, trying to make a decision, trying to figure out a really clear process. Well, how do I make this process? And I actually want to give some comfort, if you're wrestling in that way, to let you know that really we're talking about an alchemical process, a messy alchemical process. Sufis don't really use the whole cauldron imagery so much, but I think in this instance, it's much more appropriate, where, let's take the example of a business model. When you're starting to move from the messiness that your business probably has become over time, where we've got this offer and this offer and this offer and this offer, but how do they all go together, and how do we really want the business to flow? I love messing with business models. It's really, really rewarding, because it's how businesses become profitable and become really easy to run if you get it right. But there are so many different factors involved. There's not just an X factor and a Y factor to kind of consider. When you're looking at business model, for instance, you're thinking about, well, what are the things that you really love to do, and what things are you really good at, and what kind of resources do you have, and what are your income goals, and how large is your audience, and how do you like to deliver things, and what kind of resources and systems do you need, and how much support is needed for the different options, and there's all of these different pieces, and there's, of course, what is in your heart, and what kind of guidance do you have, and it's going to take time. And so what I really recommend when you're making these kinds of big decisions and working with these big issues is, one, it's always good to get help, but if you're doing it on your own or with a friend or a colleague, is to start to name all the different factors that affect the decision. Like, see if you can tease them out. What are the different things that affect how you make these choices? And then walk with each factor separately. Not trying to come to a decision, but just really embodying and being with that. What is it that I really love to do? Knowing that that's not the decision maker. How do I really love to work with people? I see somebody with a really successful business model, and they're working with hundreds of people, but I realize I really like to work intimately with just a few people. What are your income and revenue goals and your profit goals? Really, what do you really need? Have you really thought about, okay, well, if we continue down this track, my life really isn't going to be sustainable as I get older. I really need to aim for a different level of profit and a different level of revenue. So you start kind of walking with each of these, and this is probably going to be a multi-day, probably multi-week process. It's an alchemical process where, as you really face each of the different factors separately and let your heart really walk with it and ingest it, digest it, and then you add another factor, and then you add another factor, then something starts to emerge. The smoke kind of comes off the cauldron, the steam comes off the cauldron, the things start to align, and then as you've digested all of these things, then it's going to be possible to start to ask your intuition, your guidance, to work with all of that. It's hard to ask intuition to work with a complete blank slate. It's hard with a blank canvas. It's hard to kind of orient when you don't know the ground that you're trying to orient on. But as you sketch out the different aspects, then your heart can really go to work and things can all mix together over time. And the great thing is that these strategic decisions are rarely emergency. They should not be emergency decisions. They're about big questions about direction, about where am I going and where do I want to end up in the next year, in the next 2 years. It's okay to take some time with that. And so this is what I want to encourage you in, is to create some spaciousness around this kind of decision making, to start to identify all the different factors, maybe getting some help identifying what are the different factors that play into whatever it is that you're wrestling with in your business, strategically or at a vision level. And then digest them separately. And then bring in the intuition. And then see what starts to rise up out of that mix. I hope this has been helpful. I'm really interested to hear if you've tried this kind of process before. And I really want to see your business fly. I want to see you profitable, making money, and your heart happy, and people served. This has been Mark Silver with Heart of Business, and blessings to you and your business.